Level 1, the errand boy. The package is already in your hands before you know what's inside. That's how it works here. Nobody explains anything. Nobody sits you down and walks you through the rules. You figure it out by watching, by surviving, by keeping your mouth shut when every instinct tells you to ask a question. You're 17, maybe 18. You grew up in Medellín's comunas, where the hillside barrios stack on top of each other like broken teeth, where the smell of sewage and cooking oil mix in the morning air, where your mother works 2 jobs and still can't keep the lights on past 9 p.m. You've been watching these men your whole life. The ones with the clean shoes. The ones whose motorcycles are never dirty. The ones who hand money to your neighbor's mother without being asked. When they finally notice you, it feels like being chosen. The first job is simple. Carry this. Go here. Say nothing. Come back. You do it perfectly. The second job is the same. Then the third. You start to understand the rhythm. You are a nerve ending in a body that doesn't know your name. You transmit signals. You don't ask what they mean. You clear about 50,000 pesos a week. More than your mother makes in a month. You don't tell her where it comes from. She doesn't ask. That silence is its own kind of agreement. You tell yourself this is temporary. A way out. A stepping stone. Everyone at level 1 tells themselves the same thing. Level 2. The street soldier. You've proven you can be trusted with small things. Now they trust you with something heavier. The first time they hand you a weapon, it doesn't feel like a weapon. It feels like a promotion, like a key to a door you've been standing outside your entire life. You tuck it into your waistband the way you've seen others do it. You walk differently that day. Slower. More deliberate. Your job now is presence. You stand on corners. You watch. You make sure certain transactions happen without interruption. If someone causes a problem, you are the problem's solution. You haven't pulled the trigger yet, but you've been close enough to feel the temperature change in a room when someone else does. The men above you are watching everything. They notice who flinches. They notice who doesn't. They notice who asks for more responsibility and who waits to be told. You wait. That's the right answer. You figured that out without being told. Your cut grows. You're clearing 200,000 pesos a week now. You move out of your mother's house. You rent a small room in a better part of the barrio. You buy new shoes, clean ones. You understand now why the shoes mattered. The psychological shift is subtle. You stop seeing strangers as people and start seeing them as variables. Threats or non-threats. Useful or irrelevant. The city hasn't changed. Your eyes have. You don't notice it happening. That's the point. Level 3. The corner captain. They give you a block. Not in writing. Not in any official way. But everyone on that block knows it's yours. The vendors know. The kids know. The other soldiers know. Territory isn't declared. It's understood. You manage 4 men now. You collect from 3 distribution points. You report upward and distribute downward. You are a middle point in a supply chain that moves more product in a week than most legitimate businesses move in a year. The money is real now. Not life-changing, but real. You clear close to 2 million pesos a month. You send some home. You keep the rest in cash inside a wall you open up yourself, pack the bills in, and plastered shut. You trust no bank. You trust almost no one. Managing men teaches you things no school ever could. You learn that loyalty is not a feeling. It's a calculation. Men are loyal when the math works in your favor. When it stops working, they find new math. Your job is to make sure the math always favors you. You have your first serious problem at this level. One of your men is skimming. Small amounts. Barely noticeable. But noticeable. You don't escalate it. You handle it yourself. After that, nobody schemes. You don't sleep as well as you used to, but you tell yourself that's just the responsibility. That's what it costs to be trusted. You're not wrong. You're just not telling yourself the whole truth. Level 4. The distributor. You're no longer in the street. That's the first thing you notice about this level. The visibility changes. You don't stand on corners anymore. You move through the city in cars with tinted windows. You meet in back rooms and private courtyards. Your face is not for public display. You control distribution across multiple neighborhoods now. You have corner captains reporting to you. You never touch the product. It flows through layers of hands before it reaches the street, and it flows back up as cash through the same layers. You are a node in a network that is deliberately designed so that no single node knows the whole picture. Pablo's organization is built like this intentionally. Compartmentalization is survival. What you don't know, you can't confess. Your monthly earnings cross 10 million pesos. You buy a car. A modest one. Nothing that draws attention. You've learned that visible wealth is a liability. The men who drive flashy cars get robbed. Or arrested. Or worse, they get noticed by people above them who start asking where the money came from. Invisibility is its own kind of power. You have a family now. Or something that resembles one. A woman. Maybe children. They know not to ask about your work. You've never told them a single true thing about what you do. You've constructed an entire fictional version of yourself for them to love. Some nights you look at your child sleeping and feel something you don't have a name for. Not guilt exactly. More like distance. Like you're watching your own life through glass. You push it down. There's work tomorrow. Level 5. The Sicario Commander. This level has a different kind of silence around it. Men don't joke with you anymore. They don't make small talk. They measure their words carefully when you're in the room. You've crossed a threshold that has no name but everyone recognizes. You don't just move product now. You move decisions. Life and death ones. When there is a problem that cannot be solved with money or intimidation, it comes to you. You assess it. You assign it. You ensure it is resolved. You never do it yourself. That's not your job anymore. Your job is to think clearly when everyone else is emotional. To be the coldest person in the room. You oversee a team of 12 sicarios. Young men mostly. Hungry. Dangerous. Loyal because you pay well and because they've seen what happens to those who aren't. You know each of them by name. You know their families. Not because you care. Because information is leverage. Even over your own men. The cartel's reach is expanding. Pablo is moving into politics, into infrastructure, into the city's blood supply. The organization is no longer just a drug operation. It's a parallel government. It has its own courts, its own economy, its own social contract with the poor. You are part of the enforcement arm of something that has started to feel inevitable. A judge causes problems. A journalist writes things he shouldn't. A politician takes money and then forgets the arrangement. These problems find their way to your desk. You resolve them. You stop going to church. Not because you've decided anything. Just because somewhere along the way you stopped being able to sit in that building without feeling the distance between who you are and who those walls expect you to be. You don't miss it. That surprises you. Level 6. The Cartel Lieutenant. Pablo knows your name. Not as a file. Not as a report someone passed up the chain. He knows your name the way a man knows the name of a tool he reaches for without looking. That is the highest compliment available at this level. You are reliable, precise. You have never failed an assignment. You have never been arrested. You have never spoken to anyone outside the organization about anything that matters. You sit in rooms where the decisions are made. Real decisions. Which politicians to buy. Which ones to threaten. Which police commanders are useful and which are obstacles. How much product moves through which corridor this month. How to respond when the Cali cartel moves against an affiliate. You understand now that what the world calls the Medellín Cartel is not an organization. It is a living system. It breathes. It adapts. It consumes threats and converts them into fuel. Pablo is its brain, but it has 10,000 hands. You are one of the hands closest to the brain. Your wealth is now managed. Not by you. By people whose job is to make it disappear into legitimate businesses. A restaurant. A construction company. A small transport fleet. You own things on paper that you've never seen in person. Your old neighborhood feels like a photograph from someone else's life. The men you grew up with are dead, in prison, or still running corners for men who report to men who report to you. You don't feel superior to them. You feel separate. That's different. Superiority implies emotion. What you feel is simply distance. Like the altitude has changed and you've stopped noticing the thinness of the air. Level 7. The inner circle. There are 5 men in this circle. Maybe 6. You are one of them. At this level, the cartel is not a job. It is your entire reality. There is no outside. There is no other life running parallel to this one. Everything you own, everyone you love, every decision you make exists inside this system. You didn't choose this. You arrived here through 1,000 small choices that each felt reasonable at the time. Pablo trusts you with information that could dismantle governments. You know which generals are on the payroll. You know which of Colombia's most powerful families have taken money and pretended otherwise. You know where certain things are buried. Literally, this knowledge is not power. It is weight. Because you also know what happens to people who hold this kind of information and become inconvenient. You've made those things happen yourself. The American government is now involved. The DA has names. Not yours yet, but close ones. The pressure is building from every direction. Rival cartels smell weakness. The Colombian military is being equipped and trained with new resources. The city that once felt like a kingdom is starting to feel like a siege. Pablo becomes harder to read. More paranoid. More explosive. The man who once moved like chess is now moving like fire. Reactive. Unpredictable. You've watched him order the death of a man for a look. A perceived lack of respect that may not have even been real. You say nothing. You calculate. You start keeping a second set of mental records. Not written anywhere. Just inside your head. Contingencies. Options. Exits that don't look like exits. You trust no one with this. Not even yourself fully. Level 8. The ghost. The war is everywhere now. Pablo is in hiding. The organization is fractured. Half the inner circle is dead or has turned. The city moves under curfew. Helicopters trace patterns over the rooftops at night. The money is still moving but through channels so thin and so indirect that it takes weeks to access what used to take hours. You are alive because you became invisible before invisibility became necessary. You saw this coming. Not the specific shape of it, but the direction. Systems that expand without limit always collapse under their own gravity. You understood that at level 6. You began preparing at level 7. You are not in Medellín. You haven't been for 4 months. You exist now as a name on documents that point to other names that point to accounts in places that have no extradition agreements with anyone. You have 3 passports. None of them carry your real name. Your real name hasn't appeared on anything official in 2 years. The people who knew you at level 1 are dead or don't recognize what you've become. You sit in a house in a country you won't name, in a room with white walls and a single window that looks out onto nothing remarkable. And you think about the 17-year-old boy who carried a package without knowing what was inside. You don't feel regret. You're past the age of regret. You feel the weight of it. That's different. Regret has heat. This is cold. This is simply the accumulated mass of every decision compressing down to a single still point. You are free in every technical sense. You are not free. That is the final lesson of this system. The men at the bottom have nothing. The men at the top have everything except the one thing they started wanting when they had nothing. You don't have a name for what that thing is anymore. You used to. A long time ago. Somewhere in Medellín, on a hillside barrio where the streets don't have names and the lights go out before 9 p.m. A boy is holding a package. He doesn't know what's inside. He's been noticed by the right people. He kept his mouth shut when he should have. He moved correctly. He showed the right kind of hunger. He thinks this is the beginning of something. He's right. He thinks he understands what he's walking into. He doesn't. But he will. They all do. Eventually.